Welcome to the Do Life in a Body You Love podcast. I'm Nikki O'Day, and we are going to talk about any and every topic that will get you showing up bigger and bolder in your life. Weight loss, relationships, mindset, it's all on the table. It may not come out real PC, but if you're sick of motivational rah-rah talks that don't lead to any real change in your life, then you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. What's up, ladies? I'm super excited for today's podcast guest. I have with me here my friend Alicia, and she's just an all-around amazing human. You guys, if you're watching the live, you can see that she's smoking hot. But more than that, she's also super smart. She's an emergency room doc, and she's extremely compassionate and giving, and she just gives everything that she can to the women around her. And she's been on such amazing life journey. And we were having a side conversation about some things. And I thought, you know what? This is stuff that these chicks that are listening to the podcast need to hear. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this will be super fun. So one time you told me that you were having a conversation with your daughter and you were like, you know what? I think if I met myself, I would like me. And I thought that was the sweetest thing, because I don't know that everybody would like themselves if they met themselves. Did you always feel this way, or did this?
No, I don't think I did. And growing up as a kid, you always have your insecurities and things that you don't like about yourself. And, I wasn't the most popular kid, and sitting at the lunch table, if there wasn't a seat, I was probably the first one that didn't get the seat. And, those things kind of cause you to feel certain ways about yourself. I tend to be a little bit more flat-chested, a little tomboyish, and didn't feel really girly and didn't really have a lot of affirmation, if it wasn't outside of something that was performance-driven, like athletics or school or something like that. And so I did have a lot of insecurities. And I think life and time and struggles and things like that tend to force you into an understanding of who you are and how you're going to deal with those circumstances. What are your circumstances going to change in you? Is it going to cause you to be better or bitter? And so I have done the bitter route, and I didn't like the taste of it. And so I have more recently, I would say probably in the last 10 years, decided to be better and not bitter.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I hope you ladies write that down. You can choose to be better or bitter. It's same circumstances, right? Everybody's going through something, same circumstances, but it's how we perceive it and how we move through it.
Right.
That's super awesome. Okay. So you've mentioned that you think it's very important for us to become the best versions of ourselves. Why?
So it's kind of interesting because you did send me a little thing ahead of time that asked me to kind of, this might be a direction that we're going. So I'm not a thinker, I'm a doer, and I go with how I feel. So I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about it, but I did last night. And I think that a lot of it stems from me, where I am in my faith. Okay. And so I do believe that I am fearfully and wonderfully made and have purpose. And so even if you're not faith-based, you have purpose. And so you really have to kind of sit and question, what is your purpose? And I think maybe some of the things that we struggle with in life is because we're not moving towards that purpose, perhaps. And I don't know. I'm a person that feels like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I don't want to be a failure at it, and I don't want to harm somebody in the process or not move forward with the best that I could give. And so I think I've kind of taken that attitude, perhaps.
That's awesome. And
did I answer?
Yeah, you totally did. You totally did. Well, because we can all be sucked into the bitterness, like you said, or we can use things to make us better people. And It's so funny that you brought up purpose because I didn't really know that that's what we would talk about. But yeah, last week's episode was about purpose and it just came out. So you probably haven't even listened to it yet.
I haven't, no.
I went on and on about purpose for probably 35 minutes on last week's podcast.
I got to go back.
Yeah. So it's funny that you brought that up. But I think sometimes when we're thinking about purpose, we get very heavy with it. And we feel some anxiety around it, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what my purpose is, right? But sometimes I think there's purpose in just going through the life issues that you're struggling with and coming out better.
Mm-hmm. And so if I think specifically about a life circumstance that really shook my world, there was nothing that anybody could do to lighten my load or make me not feel the way that I was feeling, because some circumstances are just heavy and you just have to endure them. And, people can carry you, through prayer or support or things like that, but they can't get rid of your emotional burden of it. And so while you do have to feel that, in the midst of that, you can, do it with the purpose of knowing, projecting forward. What am I going to look like on the other end of this type thing? And so in my personal journey, where I had a significant struggle, where I did feel very emotionally overwhelmed, I had the assurance that no matter what the outcome, whether it was A or whether it was B, I was going to be beautifully restored. And I leaned heavy into that. It didn't take any of my sadness, my heartache, some of my burden away. But I had that reassurance that I was going to be beautifully restored, whatever that looked like. And so I hung on to that and I clung to that and I did anything that I could do to move me in that direction. So some of it is some hard self-discovery, like at our church, we did something called Strength Finders. And so I tried to understand what I'm good at, what my strengths are, to help me to fulfill whatever it is that my purpose is. And I mean, if you were to ask me today, what is my purpose? I don't know that I could give you like a full narrative of exactly what my purpose is. But I can do things to take what I'm good at and nurture that and to move me in the direction of being a better form of myself, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. So it's kind of this, like, even if you don't have some like official outline of this is my purpose, right? But you're living purposefully, and you're becoming a better version of you every day. You're helping the people around you. You know what I mean? So and you're not just being unintentional with your life, you're living purposefully. Right. And I think that's really what purpose is all about, honestly. And it changes too. So I kind of touched on this last week, so I don't want to jump too far down the rabbit hole, but it changes in different seasons too. Right. Like when your kids were little, your purpose was momming, and you have a purpose inside of the emergency department, and you have a purpose inside of your church. And we don't just have like one thing. We all wear many hats, and there's good that comes from all of those roles that we play. But I think purpose is almost like a mindset. Like you're doing your best. You're trying to help others. What I think is really cool about, not that it's cool that you went through a crappy situation. The crappy situation was crappy, right? But I think what's cool about the way you handled it is there's two ways I see people go. One is, okay, everything's going to be fine, whatever. And they don't allow themselves to feel any of it, or they try to minimize the feeling of it with, I think they call it toxic positivity now, but to me, it's just good old school avoidance, right? And you give it a fancy name, but it's just like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. I don't care about this. And I don't care about which way this turns out and whatever. And then we're not really learning anything and growing in it because we're avoiding the whole thing. And then eventually we have a meltdown. Right. Or you can go the other way and you can just be stuck in it and be like, if this doesn't turn out this way, my life is over. This is not what I thought was going to happen in my life. And everything's destroyed. And I think we have a second of that when something shocking happens, right? We're like, what? Your whole world gets turned upside down and you're like, what the hell? Right. But then you come to the realization that, okay, this is happening for a reason. And whatever it is, I'm going to be okay. This might not be what I chose for myself, but God's got me. Mm-hmm. And something good is going to come of it, even if I can't see it now and it feels terrible, but you let yourself feel it still, mm-hmm. which was probably like a really hard thing to do.
Right. Times of sadness or struggle, they're very difficult emotionally, especially for me personally, because I'm an empath and I feel everything. Like this pen is blue, and if I like blue, I feel really good about it. But if I don't like blue, then I might have trouble writing with this pen. That's how like a pure empath, they really feel about animate and inanimate things. And so if you're experiencing something that causes emotion, the empath really, really feels it. And so, yeah, it can be overwhelming for sure.
And just because I was kind of an outsider looking in while you went through said experience, I mean, you handled it with so much grace. There was I'm sure you were having all kinds of crazy thoughts, mm-hmm. but that didn't come out. Like you didn't seem bitter and you know what I'm saying? Like I just think you're just such a graceful lady.
Well, grace under fire doesn't always look graceful. And so you kind of have to evaluate, like, where are you going to go with this? And if you sit and you wallow in what your circumstance is, your circumstance never really gets better. You kind of, like you talked about a rabbit hole, you'll go down a rabbit hole. And also it depends on who you're talking to. So what you didn't see were all the conversations that I had. And, some of those conversations were really raw and shallow and may have had some really negative conversations talking to individuals and might have looked so gracious. And so I had those conversations because like I said, I had been bitter before and I wanted to be better. And I needed to move forward in a way to get rid of bitterness. And so I had to talk out those negative feelings, those negative thoughts, those negative, things that would move me in that direction of bitterness. I didn't want to go there. I've been there and I didn't want to go there again. So it was intentional and I had to have a lot of conversations.
No, but that's smart. Like, again, the whole avoidance thing. And I think that Christians fall into this a lot too, maybe more so than others, because we're supposed to forgive and we're not supposed to be bitter and all of these things. And I think that we mistake that for meaning that we're not supposed to feel the things.
Right.
No, we're still humans and we're still going to feel the things, but you have to be intentional and purposeful in how you deal with them. And it doesn't mean that you're never angry at somebody. And it doesn't mean that you never feel hurt. It doesn't mean that you never feel, even David, when he wrote a bunch of Psalms, talks about feeling abandoned by God. And like, he calls God out on some stuff like, where are you at, bro? Help me out here.
Exactly.
And but we think for some reason that our faith has to be perfect at all times. And the minute somebody does something, I have to forgive them. And it's like, I think that actually does us more harm than good. And it's like, you still have to work your way through your emotions. And I believe that's even biblical to do those things and to have the conversations. And it doesn't mean that you never accidentally yell at somebody and call them a name either. Honestly, you're having real conversations, right?
If you're going to numb yourself to it, you're missing the opportunity to grow your faith, to be honest.
Yeah, because that's where we grow. Mm-hmm. There's so many silly cliches about it, right? Like diamonds are made under pressure. And like you read it on a meme and you're like, oh, that sounds so cute. But really, truly, like, how do you get better?
Right.
It's the same thing with fitness, right? When you're working out, you're not just lifting weights and your muscles grow. The muscle tears down and it's a hormetic effect. So then the muscle says, oh, well, if we're going to keep doing this crap, I guess I'm going to grow back stronger. And so we grow strength. And the same thing happens to our minds and gives us, I think you can develop a mental toughness without developing a mental callousness. Perfect. Or an emotional callousness. Mm-hmm. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
And I think you exemplify that well. Like you deal with your issues, you grow from it, but it's not in a way where it's just, I stop caring. Right.
Right.
It's hard to go through something that beats you up emotionally and still wear your heart on your sleeve.
Right.
I mean, you don't have a choice. You're an empath. Your heart's there.
Yeah, my heart's out there. You're going to see it. You'll see it here in the next 5 minutes, I'm sure.
So tell us, if looking back through that experience, which is interesting is you say that you're not a thinker, you're just a feeler, but it sounds like you actually did a lot of intentional thinking while you were feeling your way through things. So
I would ask questions and let other people think for me.
They say that successful people are just really good question askers.
Oh, there you go.
They ask the people around them the right questions, and
Right.
they ask themselves the right questions. It's just trying to get to the right answers. So I think that is how thinking works. Actually, I think that's really good. You mentioned forgiveness being a huge part of it, obviously. How can somebody who's going through something hard, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, Nikki, Alicia, that sounds real great, but my life's a disaster right now and I hate everybody around me and like whatever. How do you work your way through this process to this point of like forgiveness, acceptance, all of these things that you went through?
So my life circumstance that was so difficult, there had been stair steps leading up to the most difficult aspect of it. And there was forgiveness that was required along the way. So a significant act of forgiveness was not something that I was immune to. And, you know, growing up, 4 of 5 kids, having 2 older brothers and being bullied by them. I mean, if you're going to have a right relationship with your siblings, I mean, you have to have a tincture of forgiveness just to do that. Or, you know, parents do a lot of really good things, but they do some bad things. And I mean, if you're going to have a relationship with your parents, you're going to have a forgiving heart, that kind of thing. My mom did model forgiveness. She was a tough lady, but one of her probably biggest character strengths is forgiveness. So I did have it modeled to me a little bit. But in the long run, you have to get to a point where it is your choice to forgive or not forgive. And that sounds like so easy. And if your heart isn't there where you can forgive, then you really need to talk through whatever emotions it is that you're going through at the time to try to get to where you can get to that point. And there's not steps A, B, and C. And, you know, maybe people do write books about that type of thing, but it really is an attitude of the heart. And when your heart is ready, and you should be in pursuit of making your heart ready. When your heart is ready, you should forgive, because it is difficult to live in a non-forgive. It's a burden. It's a burden that you carry, especially as an empath, that is too heavy. It's way too heavy.
Yeah. And for me anyways, I have to be pursuing it actively because I'm naturally a grudge holder. Like, I'll do anything for anybody. I'll give you the shirt off my back, but you mess with somebody that's part of my tribe and I'll cut you and we're done. I'm very
note to self. Okay.
I'm very ferocious of my humans. You know what I mean? Like I'm very mama bear. Yeah. And the interesting thing is I've always been that way. Even like as like a teenager, I would be that way I don't even have to be truly connected to somebody, but if I feel like you're the one getting picked on kind of thing. Like, I don't care who it is that's messing with you. I'll street fight them. I'm like, let's go, leave them alone. Like, I'm just very like, And then if you get to that point with me, I have a hard time like letting things go if it's a personal thing. But I can get there. I do have to work at it, but I can't like immediately like force it either.
Right.
Like I've tried that whole, like, okay, well in my head, I'm forgiving them because I'm supposed to thing. And I've found that it doesn't actually have that same freeing effect when I'm just faking it.
Right. Yeah, no, don't fake it. Work out your emotions to the point where you can make that bold decision to just step into forgiveness. Yes. And if you're not there, then keep working it out.
Yeah. Cause it doesn't feel the same.
Mm-mm.
You don't get
And
that
it's not
same
the same.
freeing effect.
Mm-mm. No, it won't. It's not the same.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah. It's lighter when you finally let go of some things, right?
Yeah. And maybe you have to fail at it a couple times before you actually get it right. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's something very heavy, right?
Mm-hmm. And maybe you have to have circumstances where you know that you had lack of forgiveness and that didn't look and didn't feel very good at all. And it didn't move you in the direction of being the person that you want to be. And then when you have that knowledge and understanding that that's what you've done, then you can make the steps to move a little bit closer to what conversations do I need to have? Choose the people that you talk to wisely. Because let's say, for instance, my house burned down, or, I got in a car accident. I can choose to talk to individuals who I know, oh, I sued this person, or I did this, and, like, okay, well, that's not going to move me to an attitude of healing from it. That's just going to make me bitter, not better. Or you can say, I found the beauty in this. This is a horrible thing that happened to me, but was the beautiful thing that happened to me. And have conversations with those people. Be very selective about the individuals that you allow to give you opinions. Because they will breathe life into you or they will suck the life from you.
Yes. Choosing expert counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important for so many things in life because everybody wants to give you their opinion, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do. Even if you don't ask, right?
Yeah. About literally anything. Like, you could be sitting next to somebody who eats total trash and has no idea how to take care of their body. And the minute that you say that you're like dieting, they're going to tell you all the things that you should and shouldn't eat. And you're like, but you're not, what's happening right now? Or you mention anything about investments and the brokest uncle at the Christmas party is like, this is what you got to do. You got to get you some cryptocurrency. And you're like, you have $5 in your bank account. Why are you advising me right now?
Right.
And that's fine. People just like to talk. But for some reason, we listen to them sometimes.
We do.
And it's like,
we do.
Does the person who's giving you advice, are they walking the walk that you want to walk?
That's right.
And more importantly, then, do they have the result that you want? Did they get there in a way that you want to get there? So right. Are they doing it with that grace? And are they happy? So if I'm going to take financial advice, there's a lot of filthy rich people who are not happy. I probably want to go over here and talk to somebody who's better off financially than me, but also enjoys their life.
Right.
And because they're doing something different, right? Mm-hmm. They have this balance thing and they've found some joy. And so it's like, what's the heart attitude of the person that you're speaking to? Right. Like you said about your house burning down. Do you want to go with the person who's really bitter about it and they're in the middle of a bunch of lawsuits, or somebody who's already moved on and they've reached acceptance? And it's like, well, I want some of that.
Right. Right.
I think another thing when it comes to getting expert counsel and who you're going to listen to is not always going for the person who's going to tell you what you want to hear either.
Right. Right. No, you're right. And you know what they're going to tell you. You know what direction they're going to go in. And we seek those people for a reason. So yeah, you do have to have some hard conversations with yourself about, why do I want to talk to that person about it? And yeah, is it because it's what you want to hear, or because, yeah, I agree.
Sometimes it's nice just to call your friend that you know is always going to agree with you, and she's just going to get all fired up and whatever. Yeah. And that's your pep girl, right? You're like, oh, I'll just call so-and-so. She agrees. She's going to just pep me up. But if you really want to cause change in your life, or you want to know the truth of the matter, it's like you go to your friend who's going to be brutally honest if you don't want to go to the party in the wrong dress.
Right.
But your friends you go to for the compliments. So
yeah. So don't ask me about your dress, because I will find something positive about it. You need to go to my daughter, because she'll tell you.
And she knows, because she's the fashionista.
That's right. So
I don't actually know what you should be wearing, but if I think you look bad in it, I'll totally tell you.
Oh, see, I would find something positive to say.
Not because I want to pick at things, but like, if you ask me, then I'm going to tell you, because I would want, like, I don't ask to fish for compliments ever. I want to know. Like my husband can literally be like, girl, you look chubby in that. And I'm like, okay, I got to go change. I'm not falling apart about it. I'm like, oh, I got to go put on something else. So I want people to be brutally honest with me. But
if you have something in your teeth or toilet paper hanging from the back of your outfit, I will tell you.
Good.
But see, I would be concerned that the person might not have something better to choose from. So I would try to find something positive.
Yeah. And that's why I would never give it unprovoked either. Because if you ask me, does this look okay? I'm assuming you have a plan B.
Right.
Now, if we're traveling and I know you have nothing else in your suitcase, then I'm just going to give you a pep girl talk.
Right.
But if we're at home and there's time, I'm going to be like, I've seen you look better. Okay. So choosing your expert counsel wisely. I think
don't ask me about your outfit.
Don't ask about the outfit, but go to the people who are going to give you solid advice that you can bounce things off and sometimes just vent to, and that's okay too.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So I think it's interesting that you worked through not being bitter years ago. And then this situation happens. And it almost tests that, right? But you grow stronger in that a little.
Yeah, it's kind of like being careful about what you pray for, because if you pray for patience, then you get more circumstances where you have to be patient, right?
I did it one time. I'll never do it again.
Yeah. Don't do that.
No, it's not one of my natural virtues. And I'm like, well, that's a fruit of the spirit I'd love to have. Let me pray for some patience. Worst month of my life. I'll never do it again. But everything, I really feel like everything happens to us in steps when we're ready to take them.
Right.
Which sounds cliche and stupid. And people who are in the middle of something horrible are listening to me like, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. I know everything can feel super, super heavy, but like, you might not have been ready for this before you already did that work on yourself.
Right.
It could have turned out very differently for you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I don't know that bitterness that I carried on the initial, front side of everything before I had done the work. If I had that going into the circumstance that was very difficult for me, it would not have turned out really good.
Same circumstance. This is why we can see people go through similar things and they come out totally different, right? It's just, sometimes you got to do the hard work, and it's hard though, right?
Right. And part of it is just kind of, working through getting to know yourself. Like, why did that make you bitter? What did your bitterness look like? What could you have done differently? What are your personality traits that manifested your bitterness? Why didn't that feel good to you? What would make you feel better? Just ask those really tough questions, and really get in tune with how you feel. Even if you're not an empath, if you're more of a logical person, your thoughts are at least going to be turning more positive or negative, and ask yourself those questions related to your thoughts.
Yeah, I tend to be more of the logical side, but even when you're logical, you can completely shut off doing any sort of self-evaluation, right? Because you can just make excuses for why everything's happening or justifications for things. And I think it's hard to ask yourself questions. Well, why am I responding this way? Or, well, what could I have done differently here? But that's of course how we grow and get better. Sometimes, like when I'm working with some of my clients through some different issues, I'm like, how about we just like dive into this, but you're not allowed to judge how you felt. As I think people shut off their emotions about things because they feel like their emotions they're not supposed to have, or their thoughts about something. Like they don't even want to say why they did what they did because they have so much self criticism towards their behavior. And it's like, sometimes like take a step back and no judgment. And that's not to say that your behavior was appropriate or your thoughts were appropriate. It's just, I want to evaluate this without any emotion in this right now. So what did I do? why did this happen? What led me here? How could I do something different? And then you can kind of come to some conclusions, because if you're so like guarded and don't want to do any introspection because you just feel so much guilt, I think it's so hard to move past anything.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right.
Because you just sit there and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. That's
right.
It's like, dig it up and just don't feel anything about it once in a while. And just look at it and be like, yeah, I was kind of a turd in that moment. Well, but you got to sit around with your own thoughts once in a while to think through these things. Right. So like, this is why I tell my kids all the time to be bored.
Yes. Good idea.
How do you know what you're thinking if you always have a phone or something in your face? You'll never have time for your mind to wander. Now, if you're going through a situation like that's serious, obviously you're sitting and you're doing some thinking intentionally, maybe.
Right.
But even through just busy life, just take a second and be like, what do I think about the world? And why do I think that?
I like it.
Yeah. Well, I love that you are now, I see you as being a very brave person. Do you think that is true about you?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I would say that.
Like, you put yourself out there for some stuff. So I want to talk about your business for a minute, which I'm sure you're okay with that, because if anybody needs any awesome skincare, they can come to you. But I think it was such a brave thing for you to launch your own business, because again, everybody giving their opinions, right?
Right.
You're a successful doctor who's married to a successful doctor. And most people would be like, what do you need a business for?
Right.
Did you hear that from people?
Oh, yeah. Especially in the multi-level marketing venue. People don't understand it. They have misconceptions about it. And that's fine. I get that. And you will lose friends over, launching something like that. But it did take a lot of courage to do. And, when my friend that signed me on, it's like, okay, and then you have to go on and you have to tell everybody that this is what you're doing. And I'm like, do I really have to do that? Because I know when she launched, I'm like, what is she doing? Oh no, Erica, why did you drink the Kool-Aid?
And then here you are, fast forward.
Yeah. So, when it all boils down to why I did something like that, I basically saw that the person that led me to that was very honest and trustworthy. Her skin did get significantly better, as did the skin of her children. And I knew her heart, and I knew she would not lead me astray. And so it has opened a lot of doors for me to have conversations with individuals that I otherwise probably wouldn't have had conversations with, to nurture friendships that wouldn't have been available to me. And I didn't get to pick these people. They found me. God put them in my path. And sometimes I'm like, really, God, why? But most of the time I'm like, wow, that is really interesting. And, I think specifically, and I'm going to say a name, and it's going to cause emotion to me because I lost her. Teresa Stinning. I think you knew, Teresa. She joined me in Rodan Fields, and, I just had some of the most beautiful moments, just spending time with her. And she passed not quite 5 months ago, I believe it is. And what a hard loss. But I would not have had the opportunity to know such a beautiful, just fun, loving person, because she's an introvert and had some self-esteem, I would say some self-esteem issues. And I would not have known what I know about her without having that opportunity. So this business has really given me great opportunities.
I love that so much. And not because I'm all like, yeah, we're both cheering up, but it's allowed. It's allowed on this podcast. And not to be like an infomercial for network marketing. I'm not even in network marketing anymore, but I do see the value in it. But like being open to new experiences, like you're right. Like when I was in network marketing, I'm still very close with a lot of the women who I was in that company with. And it led me to doing my health coaching. I would have never, ever went from ER nurse to health coach. Like that was a stepping stone for me, but it did also connect me to the most amazing people. Right. And I think sometimes we let what other people are going to think stop us from doing things. So whether that's network marketing or a different business adventure or anything that you may be thinking of stepping into, but you hear all of these people telling you, wow, why you shouldn't do that. And I think other people have reluctancies and fears around things, and then they try to put it on us. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, keep your fear to yourself. Cause I don't need it.
And if I'm being honest, I wasn't doing it necessarily brave. But I have become brave because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not like you do it on purpose just to be like, look how brave I am.
Yeah. No,
but it took bravery.
I was pretty scared actually.
Okay. But that's what bravery is, right? It's facing fear. It's not a lack of fear.
You're right.
Everybody has fear, but do you push yourself through it, which is also another form of growing, right? Mm-hmm. Girls, we're talking about a lot of topics here today. Okay. I told you that this was going to be a good one. So we've got forgiveness. We've got feeling our pain, but coming out the other side of it. Now we've got facing our fears. Like, is there any other topic we can possibly touch on?
Oh, shoot. Somehow somebody let my dog downstairs. So I apologize.
Oh, let's see the dog for the people who have video. Oh, hi, baby. This dog she actually let me touch her the other day.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to scoot in and try to keep her under the desk.
No, she can totally be a part of this video. I love dogs. But like there's personal growth whenever you're stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yes. And I think people need to step out of their comfort zone more. I think you'll understand different people's circumstances a lot better. It puts you in positions that you can't help but grow in. I mean, I never would have done like Zoom meetings, calls, a lot of the media stuff that I do, like the personal development that you can have just stepping out of your comfort zone is just, it's amazing. It's amazing.
There's like an old Stoic philosophy principle that you should do something that terrifies you every day, or I'm butchering that, but it's something like that. And because you do learn and grow so much when you just do things that you're a little uncomfortable with.
Mm-hmm. And along the same lines that I think that of a lot of what is attractive maybe to being a health coach or helping women to lose weight. Women's self-esteem and self-worth are tied a lot into that. And it's crazy how much people's self-worth and how they really feel about themselves is tied into the way they appear, and skin is a lot of that. So I have learned to love myself better by having better skin, and to help other people to love themselves better because they either branched out into a business or have acquired better skin from acne or anti-aging or whatever. They just feel better. And when you feel better, you are more positive to individuals around you. You're more motivated to do things. So it has been a part of a feel better journey for me to move in the direction of being more positive, more uplifting, more strong, more intentional, for sure.
And that's such a cool gift when you give that to somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, very much so.
Like people are probably like, why is she so excited that I just got some face stuff from her? And you're like, because your face is going to look amazing. It's going to change your whole life. Yeah. And that's how I feel about people's weight. I don't care what anybody weighs, but I get so excited when women sign up for my program because I know the transformation they're about to have isn't really about their weight.
That's right.
It's all these other things.
Yeah. They have a cliche term, life-changing skincare. And, it means more than just a cliche, for sure.
Girl, listen, I had acne my whole life. It's totally true. Mm-hmm. Like when your skin is a mess, like mine always was, it does affect everything. Like, do I want to get on this camera and make this podcast for people if my face is all broke out? Or if I'm heavier than I want to be? And like, yeah, you will maybe do the things, but you're going to be more confident.
Right.
So I'm so glad I got that eyelash stuff from you, because listen, I switched to some natural stuff. Hey, spoiler alert, ladies, it doesn't work. You have to use the lash boost from Rodan Fields.
You do.
Yeah. See, Alicia has eyelashes and I don't right now. And you know why? It's because I just went on my lash boost again 2 days ago. They say it's supposed to take 3 weeks. It usually only takes like a week for me. I love that stuff. It's like gold.
Yeah.
Well, is there any?
Which brings on another thing that you really need to probably mention is consistency.
Yes, let's talk about that.
With your weight loss, with your skincare, with your scripture reading, with your nurturing your marriage, with communicating with your kids, consistency.
Yes. So give things attention. First of all, what do you want to be consistent in?
Mm-hmm.
Because the world's going to be pulling you all over the place.
That's right.
Most of what I do with my clients is, let's figure out how to pull this into your day. What things can you actually eat that you'll be happy with? When are we going to cook the things? When are we going to eat the things? Is it because these women can't figure this out? No, it's because they're freaking busy, right? Or like our brains are like mashed potatoes because we're all bombarded with information. And so it's like, what do you want to give your attention to? And how are you going to do it? And then you got to be consistent.
Right. And I think, just thinking about my own weight journey, consistency is probably one of my biggest failures in it. And so I'm having a little bit of an aha moment here for myself.
Yeah, it's not usually a knowledge deficit, right? Okay, you're a doctor, you know the human body.
I do know more than I practice, for sure.
But we all do, right? Knowing and doing are two different things. Yeah. And we are so busy and we just get all over the place. So it's hard to be consistent. So I know for me, when I'm helping people with their weight, it's okay, let's have a plan that's not perfect. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, I need to be eating the least amount of calories that I can and working out the most because I want to look good by summer. And I'm like, yeah, but you'll never stick with that. So it's not going to work because you can't be consistent with that. So what can we do that's better than what you're doing right now so you can be consistent? But it's all this habit stuff, right? Which is like not fun and sexy. Everybody wants like, here's the magic answer. And I'm like, there isn't one. We just got to do the hard work. Right. Sorry. But you probably have some good consistency tips for like your skincare routine, right? Mm-hmm. Like,
so what got me into it was seeing the before and after picture. And I saw somebody that had really serious sun damage and their after picture is gone. And I am a freckled faced, person who, when I was in my younger years, put on oil and sat on the roof till I could fry, because that's the only color I could get, and definite sun damage as a result of it. And so then I thought, okay, they do have a 60-day money back guarantee. And if I tried it and it didn't work, then I could always return it and get my money back. So that was a motivator for me. And I thought, what do I have to lose other than sun damage? So that's how I jumped in. And I was really not looking to do a business, and she didn't promote the business for me at first. But once I realized that the skincare did make a huge difference in the way that I appeared and felt about myself, then she talked me into some lash boosts, because who doesn't want some lashes, right? And then after that, I thought, well, this stuff is really expensive. And she's like, well, one of the ways that you can curb some of the expense of it is to be a consultant and get a 25% discount. And I'm like, well, even if I don't sell a ton, I could make enough to pay for my skincare. And so that led to consistency for sure. And once you start to see results, your consistency just happens. Because you don't want to lose what you've been working so hard for. And, but like life with your relationships with your spouse or your children or, whatever work habit or anything. I mean, it's hard to keep all the plates spinning at one time. And so you really have to determine, which plates are the most important ones to keep going and which ones can you let fall. And yeah. So now as a consultant, my skincare plate has to keep spinning because I'm my own billboard, right?
Yeah. So this was like a hard ego check for me was when I went to Texas in November, which some of you know this. I was nursing prior to doing health coaching full time. I went down to Texas to do a crisis contract. And literally what you do is you live in a hotel and you work 72 hours a week. So I worked 12-hour days every day except for Thursdays. And on Thursdays, I had all my coaching calls with my clients. And I was night shift, which wrecks me. And I knew I would probably be nights before I went down there, but it was a 4-week contract. And I just have this mindset that like, whatever, I can do anything for 4 weeks. This will be like the Spartan race of nursing. And so I'm going to do this. And exactly what I thought happened would. I told my husband on my way out the door, I was like, bye, I'm going down there in the best shape of my life. And I'm coming back one of the thickest weight loss coaches you're ever going to lay eyes on. And I knew it because I'm going to live in a hotel with no kitchen. And I'm the stress, like I put on weight because of stress. Like it's nobody's business. Mm-hmm. I'm wearing a CGM right now, girl. I tell you all about my blood sugars when I'm stressed out and everything. I can see physical changes in my body. So being away from my kids and my husband, and like, I just knew this was going to wreck my body, and it wrecked my body every bit as much as I thought that it would. But I'm okay with it because I'm like, I know what to do to get it back. Right. But then I got to get on camera and go live telling people how to lose weight when I don't feel like I am the weight that I want to be. So that was my own little shot to my ego that I went through recently. But
that's one thing that I think is very relatable about you and what you do to help women is that you don't mind sharing that. It's real. It happened. It is something that you're going to have to battle on the other end of it. And could you have gone on Instagram or whatever and, taken pictures of you in the exact right angle, and, put a filter on or put on the shirt, try on 5 shirts and give the shirt that gives you the most like muscle mass or whatever. Yeah, you could have done that.
Do my push-ups first and then put my tank top on and be like, look.
Yeah. But you told the story about what you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't enough. It's not because I don't know what to do. I literally put myself into the most psychotic situation I could. It was interesting. That's for sure.
You did a little experiment with yourself.
Oh, yeah. And I expected to gain weight. I didn't expect all my underlying weird, undiagnosed autoimmune issues to flare up, but I should have. So I was like, oh, I've got more work to do when I get home than I thought, but that's okay. I know how to do it. I'll get there. Being consistent, ladies, not being perfect with your weight loss.
That those things do flare your autoimmune disorders too, though.
Oh, insanely. I'm very circadian rhythm sensitive. Like this girl needs her sleep. And it needs to be at nighttime. I have to sleep at nighttime.
Yeah. As a nighttime shift worker, I understand that it does wreck your world. So you do have to come up with your own form of consistency.
Mm-hmm. So you guys got this. You got to consistently put on your lash boost. If you want your eyelashes to grow, you got to consistently
wash your face.
Wash your face. For the love of God, you got to wash your face. I have friends who have like the most amazing skin. And they can go to sleep and with their makeup on, and they wake up and their makeup is still in place. And I'm like, did you even move in your sleep? And also
that skinny girl who can eat everything,
Exactly.
There's
and I'm
always
like, your
person.
face is going to be a wreck if you don't start washing that makeup off your face at nighttime. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't wear makeup, you got to wash your face, right? Just because all the toxins that you come in contact with all day.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
See? Learning things here with Alicia. So are there any other the random wisdom that you want to drop on these chicks? I mean, we covered a lot.
I mean, life brings you through seasons and different stressors. I think back to what I thought I knew when I was younger and what I know now. So just be really, if you're in your younger years and, you're parenting the small children and things like that, things are going to look a lot differently when you're 20 years down the road. So don't stress over it too much, because in the long run, in the grand scheme of things are going to play out differently than you had imagined. And you just take it one day at a time. A friend of mine tells me, don't eat the elephant in one bite or something like that. I don't know. So take it one day at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself with it. If it feels overwhelming, break it down into smaller pieces, whatever it is, be it, weight loss or, work or, getting the house cleaned up or, getting your kid off to the bus or whatever. Find little tips and tricks that make it a little bit easier. Yeah. And then get the negative self-talk out of your head. When when I was thinking about coming on this conversation with you, and just the negative self-talk is really, it's a judgmental attitude that you have towards yourself. It's bullying yourself. And everybody agrees that bullying is not okay. But for some reason, we think bullying ourselves is okay, or passing judgment on ourselves is okay. And it's not. And you will be a lot less judgmental to individuals around you if you stop judging yourself so harshly.
And it doesn't work, by the way. Bullying yourself into doing things doesn't work. Right. And for you coaches that are listening, bullying your clients doesn't work either. Just throwing it out there. It just
makes you feel guilty, it just.
Which will make you do what? Reach for your comfort habits, which are not the habits that are going to move you forward. So by picking on yourself for the things that you think you're doing wrong, you're actually just going to jump down that rabbit hole farther. Mm-hmm. So it's like, accept the things that you need to change, make peace with them, and then just work to make them better.
And don't do them all at the same time. Too many plates spinning. Focus on one.
And make it season appropriate.
Yes.
So you mentioned seasons. Mm-hmm. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, listen, just because it's a right thing to do doesn't mean it's right for you to do in this moment. Mm-hmm. If you have young kids at home and you have this idea that you need to have a banging six pack, like an Instagram model, why do you think that you have to do that? We all know that what that requires, that's not even about health, right? Mm-hmm. That's something else. And God bless them for looking that way. I love you girls. You're putting in the hard work, you do it. But guess what? When you're running around with 3 kids in your house in diapers, that ain't what you need to focus on right now. Or
buy the diapers.
Yeah, right. You're doing all these other things. So it's prioritizing what's the real focus for me right now in this season.
Right.
I joke all the time. I'm like, well, so I take good care of my health and I try to do some personal development. My yard is lacking, you guys. I live next to a bunch of retired school teachers, and it looks like Better Homes and Gardens just made it rain all down my street, except for my house. And sometimes I'll pull in my driveway and be like, I really got to get my act together. And then I think about what it would mean I'm sacrificing. Mm-hmm. And so it's great for you to have a nice looking yard. Mm-hmm. And I applaud you for it, but I can't right now because it would either cost me value in my relationships, my coaching business, or my own health. And I really want some pretty azaleas, but I also want to have a nice butt when I'm on a boat this summer. So I just got to pick and choose wisely.
Exactly.
I
want a nice butt on my boat too.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be somebody else's.
I want you to take me on your boat, and I want to have a nice butt while I'm on your boat.
Okay. I like it.
I think
our next podcast can be on the boat.
Oh, I love it. Yes. I love everything about being on a boat. I was made to just live on water. I think that I have Viking heritage or something because I'm happy when I'm at sea. Mm-hmm. Oh, where can ladies find you if they want some beautiful skin?
Oh, well, I do have a website. And it's my name, Alicia Morales, .com.
I'll put that in the show notes, ladies.
Yeah, wherever you post it, I can send you a link to it. Yeah. And if it's something that they are interested, but don't really know like where or what they would need to get started, I do have a skincare tool. It's a little survey and kind of goes through what their skin's like, because not everybody has the same skin, right? And it'll give you personalized recommendations for things that you might be interested in. And then we can chat. If finances are an issue, then, you don't buy everything that's recommended. You go with what you need to do to get the skin that you want. And maybe down the road, you can add a little something to it. But
yeah, go whatever's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck.
That's right.
That's how you make decisions. So if they do your tool, that will put them in contact with you if they have questions.
Yeah, because they would do it through my website. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put that in the show notes for you ladies. And Alicia, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a super busy chick and you just dropped so many good knowledge bombs on us that I'm so excited to get this episode out to these lovely ladies. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll chat.
All the encouragement you give people.
Oh, no problem. This is so fun for me now. I love this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for tuning in. It is my mission to give women back the confidence that they need to show up bigger in their lives. Right now, the world more than ever needs women who are on fire and living their purpose. If you want to join me in this mission, there's a few things you can do. 1, you can share this podcast with the women in your circle. 2, you can join me in my Facebook group, Simplified Fat Loss, or you can subscribe to my newsletter at nikkioday.com.